To support this podcast, go to positivesarcasm.com/donate. Any amount is appreciated. Once again, positivesarcasm.com/donate. Thank you and enjoy the program. Jay here, positivesarcasm.com, recorded here from the Spare Parts Studio alongside New Hampshire's beautiful seacoast. Like, subscribe, share, donate. Positivesarcasm.com/donate. Any amounts appreciated. You can find me on Instagram at @positive_sarcasm. You can email me through my website or directly positivesarcasm@outlook.com for all your questions, concerns, or comments. Let me take this line by line, and however long this episode is however long this episode is. When I was 31, what was I doing when I was 31 years old? I had recently involuntarily had a relationship ended. I was making under $30,000 a year. Far less than that, actually. About 28. Making 28 grand a year. I didn't have my own home. I was stuck living, at this point, I think I was stuck living with a buddy of mine who let me rent for really cheap money. I was thousands of dollars in debt, about to become even more in debt. Had no investments. Had a car with well over 100,000 miles on it, and didn't know what I was going to do with my life, living in a little bedroom somewhere in Manchester. So I was, at age 31, I was a nobody. I had a couple of these trophies that you see here on my wall, and that was it. What was Charlie Kirk doing at age 31? Financially successful, started a political organization called Turning Point USA out of his garage in his early teens, influenced millions of people around the world, organized events, debates, conversations all over the U.S., but most importantly, I think is most importantly, he was married and he had 2 kids. Because ultimately, when all the water boils out of the pot, if Turning Point USA disappears, if the fame disappears and the podcast disappears and his possible political aspirations disappear, he still has 2 children. He still has a loving, supporting wife. These are people that he has to take care of. These are people that look upon him for strength and guidance and support and just insert all the other words. I think yesterday or the day before was the first time that Charlie's kids woke up without a father. And Charlie's wife woke up without a husband. But he accomplished all these things by the age of 31. Which in itself, of whether it doesn't matter. We're not talking about agree or disagree. I'm not here to say yeah, but. There's fundamental rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of your own individual meaning. Somebody took those rights from him. And they had no right to. 2 children are waking up without a father, and one gracious woman is waking up without a husband. Over one brief moment of extreme foolishness, anger, resentment, jealousy, self-loathing, radicalization, whatever it is. A situation that's still ongoing. All we know right now is that one man is in custody after firing off a round with over 3,000 people in attendance and ultimately killing not just a man, but in my opinion, a good man. He did not mean ill will upon the people. He wasn't Che Guevara or Adolf Hitler. He wasn't some radical who led a movement that when the movement went too far, he murdered his disciples for considering abandoning ship like Che Guevara did. He did not radicalize the youth movement to defend the homeland, which was systematically killing tens of thousands of Jews per day, like the Hitler Youth Movement was. Charlie Kirk's foundation was not about that. Charlie Kirk was not about that. From all accounts, people liked him. He was only 30. People understand they're judging Charlie Kirk for what he has done, but that he was only 31. He said things that you've disagreed with. He's only 31. He's still learning. The final form of Charlie Kirk, the way I would be hoping to see it as a man who did something he believed in, has not taken place yet. And unfortunately, it never will, because somebody else took it upon themselves to end his life to the horror of 3,000 people in attendance. Do you understand that the thousands of people in attendance, many who probably agreed or were interested in what Charlie had to say, and I'm sure there were people there who wanted to debate him because they vehemently disagreed with what he said, because that's what he does. He likes, or he appreciated, open debate. And when somebody pushed their opinion upon him, he would sometimes say, I'm going to take this and go reflect on it. That's all you can ask from a man. He was a far more open-minded person than I think I ever will be. And unfortunately, regretfully, what I saw, I'm not sure I could ever be that open of a person again. It's hard to look at certain people the same way or in a respectful manner when in just a brief moment in time, they can go from being someone who receives thousands of dollars in college scholarships to months later bringing a rifle to a rooftop and committing political assassination in front of thousands in attendance. Young men are easily persuadable. We know this. I know this. I have been through a lot in my own life. I've never murdered anyone, though. I have been easily persuaded, but I've never looked at someone like Destiny, who actually says vile things and celebrates the death of people. I've never looked at him and said, I wish you were dead. I wish someone would end your life in a spectacle like the one we saw the other day. I don't know if spectacle is the right word, but it's the only one that popped in my head. The horror of all the people witnessing an unsanctioned, unapologetic, brutal murder of a father and husband. I can't imagine what their mind is. If I can understand to a degree the people there who were interested in what Charlie had to say and or who agreed with him. I can understand how they're feeling. I'm curious, I guess, the people who vehemently disagreed with Charlie on that day, who were looking to ask him a probing question or maybe get him in a gotcha moment, I'm wondering how they feel now after witnessing a high-profile murder. How do you feel about your opinions now? How do you feel about your quote-unquote side now? If it was the people from your sides, I guess, doing the work for you. I don't agree with him, so I'm going to fire off a high caliber round, ending this man's life. And regardless of who else it will affect. Charlie did not feel any pain, I don't think. Most likely, it severed his nerve stem and he quickly went unconscious. But somebody else is feeling that pain today. Like I said, his young children and his loyal wife. From a scholarship to a murderer. I don't know about if this is a medication issue. And I don't think it needs to be. Many people have committed atrocious acts. As I just stated before, some of these people who I just stated, many vile acts have happened without the use of medication, but definitely there is an influence there that I take caution of. Like I said, children between the ages of 14 and 18 were radicalized by the Third Reich. And then when the fight was brought to Germany, they went from being essentially Boy Scouts to being frontline soldiers. How quickly a fragile mind can be radicalized. The fallout from this, unfortunately, is a doxathon. A doxing, when you dox someone, you essentially publish all their public information, their name, phone number, address, work environment, everything that you can possibly find out about them, and you put it out on the internet for everyone to see in order to essentially cancel this person, get them fired, make them lose sponsorships or subscriptions, essentially unpersoning someone. Because from what I understand, after the murder of that Ukrainian girl on the subway train, after the murder of those politicians in Minnesota, I believe it was Minnesota, I apologize if it's not, after the attempted murder, 2 of them, the attempted assassinations on the now current president of the United States, one of which, those attempted assassinations, resulted in the murder of a fire chief. People in certain ideals, religions, political affiliations have had it. From what I can see. And they are bringing the fight at this point with the only way they know how. If you are going to celebrate the death of a figure who, I guess in my opinion, meant no harm to anyone, if you're going to celebrate his death, we're going to make sure that your celebrations are seen worldwide. And whatever comes of it is on you. I have a few other thoughts, I guess, and then I'll kind of wrap this up. Does this pass? Or does this ignite? My hope, my personal hope is that this passes. That the American justice system does what it needs to do in terms of trying and convicting without influence this individual who committed a political assassination of a high-profile figure who could have possibly been a candidate for senator, governor, maybe president. I don't know. He had the ambition. He had the intelligence. He had the love. He had the support. I personally don't like watching those debates all that much. It makes me uncomfortable. I understand the subject matter. I prefer not to watch it all that much. I know a lot of people have done it and will continue to do it. But does this pass? And this ties into another thought of mine. If it passes and things quiet down and people start to realize that the foolish things that they said online, did in public, maybe they realize the fault in their ways and they start to move away from this radicalization of the political sphere, the cultural sphere. Maybe this is a turning point. Pardon the pun. Or does this ignite? Right now you have federal agents all over the United States in plain sight following presidential orders to remove illegal immigrants from this country. Right now you have police all over the United States looking over their shoulder, federal agents looking over their shoulder, doing their jobs to the best of their standards, the best of their abilities due to the laws that are presented to them. They're just trying to do their job. What happens to them? We are seeing civil unrest in this country. We're seeing protests turn into riots, highways getting blocked off, fights in the middle of the street, agents being attacked. That's civil unrest, textbook. Does civil war come from this? With the redistricting of all the sections of California and Texas and what have you, do we start to block off from each other. And I don't know, we have a sneering approach and look to people who might not think the way you do, might not vote the way you do. Do they look like somebody you'd chase after if you were in the war? I remember speaking with folks who they left South Sudan. Not sure which civil war it was, but South Sudan left Sudan, and there was a pretty big war in South Sudan over, I believe it was 50 tribes. Some of the tribes were very kind and peaceful, but some of them were not. And what was described to me is that you could be working in an office in the city of Juba, and one of your coworkers who is from a different tribe would look at you knowing that you're from a different tribe, and they looked at you not with a sense of coworker respect or peace or cordialism. They looked at you as if there's going to be another civil war, and when there is, you are my enemy, and I will kill you. That is how it was presented to me. That this is how it is over there. People were tribal to the core. And I believe South Sudan has since has fallen into another civil war. People are starting, to some degree, in certain sections of the United States, starting to look at each other in a similar way. That is a scary thought. I'm not going to be alpha about this because it's truly terrifying to know that with a few more events like this, depending upon which side of the aisle it rage baits to, this could spill over into another murder, into another stabbing, into another riot, into another shooting, which fans the flames with either foreign or domestic influence into something that we could see in our cities, in our towns, in our churches, in our backyards, where the war would live amongst us. And the naive or the innocent suffer the cost more than maybe somebody like I would. A civil war in this country would cost millions of lives. Whose, I don't know. I would hope to God it doesn't happen. If there was a reason to pray, that would be a pretty good reason. I have concerns for others who are influential, because this is what happens in a chain reaction. A senator here, a passerby there, somebody who doesn't agree, but they're neither not mature enough, not intelligent enough, not educated enough to bring a better argument, or at least a fighting argument, to those they oppose. So instead of bringing an opinion with facts, they bring a bullet and a gun. That is a sign of immaturity. that is a sign of things I hope that don't come. The safety of other influencers scare me. You have folks like, like Joe Rogan, for example. Yeah, he's a podcaster. He's also a great comedian, UFC commentator. He has friends in his sphere. You have other political figures like Tucker Carlson or Ben Shapiro or Megyn Kelly, or you have cultural icons like Dr. Jordan Peterson. You have health experts like Andrew Huberman. You have scientists, evolutionary biologists like Heather Hying and Brett Weinstein. These people, they do talks, they do events. Copycats scare me. I worry for these people. I want them to speak their mind. I want them to say things. Not just I don't care if it's because they're looking for shock value or they're just looking to talk. They're looking to speak. They're looking to converse. A lot like when Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson did in front of an audience of over 1,000. It was fascinating. People listened. They wanted to know. They didn't ask questions. They sat quietly and attentively while these two intellectuals conversed and in some cases, maybe battled it out a little bit. But we won. We win when those things happen because we learn something. We certainly learned something too this week, though. That something is very wrong. And that the safety of other influencers, political commentators, comedians, and other folks of, I guess, high value might be in danger. I don't want that to be the case. I don't want a comedian whom I booked tickets for to cancel his show a week before the event due to safety concerns. Because at that point, we're no longer a free country. We're just living in fear. It's never good to kill the court jester. Another big problem here, and I guess I'll kind of close on this, is when you do something like this, you have to understand that something else rises in its place. And you don't always get a merciful figure. When you murder someone with reason and calm demeanor, the chances of somebody with a little more anger and a little more edge takes its place. And people like Milo Yiannopoulos, they're not so forgiving. As they said, you killed a good man. Now you've got me. Whether they're pointing out the obvious to spread the good word or they're pointing out the obvious to push their agenda, I don't know. But this can't happen. That was a sickening sight. It's unwatchable. And yet I saw it and I can't get it out of my head. But once again, what saddens me the most, regardless of civil war, regardless of the safety of the influence, what saddens me the most is that two children, very young children, have lost their father. He's never coming home because somebody became so angry, and I don't even know the words, but they were just so gone to the point that the only solution to their problems was to climb on top of a school with a high-powered rifle and kill him. And for that, a widow is born. I don't ever want to have to see something like this again. I don't want to have to keep being reminded of what is possible, because what's possible is what is. It has happened. And what scares me is that as such a young country that we are just as capable as any other nation of repeating its own historic failures. And I do not want that to happen. I hope in the coming months that that Charlie Kirk is celebrated as somebody who was a good man, did what he thought was right, gave people jobs, gave people hope, gave people a reason and a way to think, and a justification of their values. I want to thank you all for letting me process my thoughts on today's episode. To all of you that support Charlie and I've seen his episodes, been to his events, work for his organizations, I'm sorry that this happened. I'm sorry for your loss. Even I didn't realize how big of a person he really was until after the fact. I'm sorry. I really hoped we all really learned from this deep down to our core. And that whatever this problem is that we have in our nation today, we solve it. And we solve it fast. Recorded here from New Hampshire's beautiful seacoast, inside the Spare Parts Studio, for entertainment purposes only. This has been a Positive Sarcasm presentation.